Another thing I really liked about this film, I have to say, was the sense of grandeur about it. I mean, you see this film, and it doesn't feel like it's encapsulated at all. It doesn't feel internal. Everything's external. Everything is rotating around you. I think you have to credit that to Wally Pfister's cinematography, which he gets New York and he puts a 360 spin on it. You feel every aspect of New York, every quadrant, every place, every building, you feel it. And it all comes to a head. And to me, I thought that was spectacular. Visually, the film is stunning. I think that it's one of the few films nowadays that you watch and you don't think that there are special effects going on because they're so realistic. I don't even remember watching a special effect and even thinking it was CGI. It was that good. I saw it on IMAX too, so that stuff usually stands out a bit more on IMAX, and I didn't notice it. So kudos to the visual effects team in this film. Bale. Let's talk about Christian Bale. I have to say, I like I said, I love The Dark Knight. I just think that Bale was overshadowed by Aaron Eckhart's Two-Face, Harvey Dent, and Heath Ledger's The Joker. I didn't think that Bale really had a chance to shine. I think he was a little bit cocky, but I understand why. I think because of his success in Batman Begins, I understand why he was a little cocky, why that character was cocky. This one, I feel like Bruce Wayne is broken. I think he's more sympathetic than ever. The sort of arc he makes is really interesting in this film. I don't want to spoil it too much, but let's just say he's placed to the lowest of lows, and I think that can give you an idea of what will happen. But I think Bale has a great way of livening up a character without making him into a caricature of something, especially Batman. You know, we all have our ideas of what Batman should be like, and for him to just take it to such a humane level, and you know, you don't think of him as a billionaire, you think of him as a person. So I thought Bale was incredible, and I think this was his finest showing in any Batman film. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I think he's a terrific actor. There are several movies that he's in that I have not cared for. Actually, the first movie that I really liked him in was 50-50. To me, that's still his best performance. He's really solid in this film. You can tell he cares about this character that he plays, of Blake. And I appreciated this sort of urgency for our generation to sort of take control of our society, and I think he really represented that very well in the film. And again, just like Batman and Catwoman, his arc is interesting. You know, he starts on one side, you know, kind of feeling a certain way, and ending on the other side, going a whole other level. And I appreciated what Gordon-Levitt brought to the role, and I wasn't expecting it at all. I was expecting him just to be a character role, and you know, you saw him good, he does a good job, but nothing outstanding, and he does outstanding work here. So I cannot recommend his performance enough and praise it enough. I'm trying to think what else I need to cover in the film. Okay, let's talk. I'm not going to talk about the ending, but I will say with the ending, and this is complete credit to writers Christopher and Jonathan Nolan. The fact that they could wrap up a film in 5 minutes with such incredulous amounts of emotion is astonishing. I think as much as I love Return of the King, it took almost 40 minutes for the ending to finally quote-unquote end. Well, we know it hasn't ended. I mean, as far as prequels and stuff goes. But the fact that he could take a story and just wrap it up so quickly and so forcefully blew me away. I was expecting a long, drawn-out ending, but it didn't happen, and I was pleasantly surprised about that. And I loved those last 5 minutes, I have to say, were some of the best 5 minutes of film ever. And I think as far as a conclusion goes, right now in my head I can't find a better one in any film trilogy. So kudos to the screenplay on that. I think that they soared above and beyond my expectations, above and beyond everyone's expectations in that regard. Now, as far as the film itself, it's one of the few films I can think of where it benefits from predictability. I think we always talk about unpredictability being a plus in a film, and predictability being kind of like a negative thing about a film. But to me, the film works because I'm not going to say it's so predictable, because obviously there are surprises in the film, but for a final film where you expect certain things to happen, it's satisfying when they do happen. And yes, there are risks taken in the film, but by and large, they come to a head in a way that you expect, but you also are satisfied with. And it sits very well with you once everything's said and done. And The Dark Knight, it was great because there were narrative twists you didn't see coming, and by and large, that film was just a total shocker. But I think when you're dealing with a final product in a film trilogy, you kind of have to mark off certain boxes, check off certain boxes, and Nolan did that. He appeased the film goer, he appeased the fanboy, you could say, he appeased the comic book lover, but he did so in a way that the execution was effortless. I mean, you see things and you they can blur and they can kind of jet past you. In this film, it really takes its time. Every scene has a purpose. Every moment has a pulse. And I think that at the end of the day, you're going to walk away with just the best feeling ever after this film. And whether you critically will say, oh, I didn't like this movie because it wasn't predictable, or I'm sorry, whether because it was predictable, at the end of the day, the experience is what matters, and you can't replicate what Nolan did with this final entry in the series. So, yes, I do give it 4 stars, and currently it sits at number 10 on my top 10 favorite films of all time. Where it'll go after a few years of reflection, I don't know. I rewatched Batman Begins. It dropped considerably for me. I still think it's a great film. I just think that it's not up to par with what we know Nolan can do. So with that said, I think that everyone should go see The Dark Knight Rises. I think that you probably shouldn't go into it trying to make direct comparisons between The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises unless there are things like my issue with Michael Caine where it's obvious that there's a break and there's confusion. And obviously, don't go in expecting Tom Hardy's performance to replicate the Joker's, because it's simply not going to. But I have to say, as a film trilogy, this is one of the best. As a final film in a trilogy, this is the best. I sincerely hope that the Academy really looks hard at this film and, puts it in the roster for the 10 best pictures, 10 best films of the year for Best Picture. I don't know that it will, but if it wants to go with quality, if it wants to acknowledge an amazing trilogy by an amazing director who brought a genre like the superhero action genre and made it into something with depth, with meaning, with social commentary, you're not going to find me disputing you at all if you put that and award it for the Oscars. So with that said, go see the film. It's superb. The ensemble is stellar, and I think everyone will walk away feeling like all is at rest in the Batman universe, and whether it's peace or chaos at the end, I think people will be satisfied regardless. So, like I said, there's nothing I can say anymore. Go see this film. Thanks. Bye.